The matter of faith. There have been men, many of them, who claim to be a new Messiah. And tonight we're going to meet three of them, including one in the faraway Philippines who has amassed a flock, he says, numbers in the millions. Poor people who give what little they have to the man they believe is the second coming of Jesus. Bill Weir journeyed there to meet him.
Throughout the Bible, prophets, angels, and Jesus himself all promised that the Son of God would return to create heaven on earth. And throughout the ages, billions of Christians have wondered, when? But what if the second coming is here, now? There are a number of would-be messiahs who claim exactly that, and few are more physically convincing than a former Russian traffic cop named Sergei Torop. In the woods of rural Siberia, he is known as Vissarion, the teacher, and around 5,000 disciples live around him, growing their own food and feasting on his every word.
My whole body was trembling. The trembling is not coming again. Well, it's very emotional to me.
Meanwhile, in London, David Shaler says he is the true Lord of Lords, but unlike Vissarion, no one believes him.
That doesn't bother me because I was chosen by God.
The former British intelligence agent says his body was filled with the Spirit of Jesus in 2007, a conviction which intensifies on a visit to Jerusalem.
We're in the Church Holy Sepulchre, and this behind me is supposed to be the tomb of Christ. Well, I'm Christ, I'm not in the tomb, I'm not dead yet.
But with no support, he lives in a squatters' camp outside London.
My agreement with Jesus, I don't ask for money off people. If you're the Messiah, you shouldn't be asking for money. You should have faith that God will look after you.
Pastor Kibuloy has attracted a number of influential guests into his kingdom. From the Filipino president, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, to senators and military commanders. But his ministry has not been without controversy. In 2008, a widow claimed in the Filipino press that her husband was killed by unidentified gunmen days after he refused to sell his land to people she said were connected to the kingdom. Kibuloy dismissed the claims as totally false and baseless.
Many of those detractors of ours, sometimes pick up some of those people that are against us and say, oh, Pastor Kibuloy is a land grabber, Apollo is a land grabber. And then the media pick it up, because it's sensationalized, especially when it comes to my name. They sensationalize it. And as I said, I can care less about that, because if I had any violations of the law, you can find me in court. I have my legal team. I have my lawyers to take care of that.
Attention was also focused on the kingdom in 2004. Arlene Rilon's parents accused Kibuloy and his followers of kidnapping their daughter and leading a cult that exploits minors.
I can't say that Pastor brainwashed me or anything. It was my decision to follow my calling, because I know that what Pastor did even how many years ago when he was called by the Father and he was trained, I know that he is my model, and what I have chosen to follow, my calling here in the kingdom, is just the right thing to do for me.
Arlene's dispute with her parents is common amongst families who are involved in new religions.
People in these groups feel that they're getting more love from the group as opposed to the genuine love that comes from their families. And then many families feel that their children, their adult children, are throwing away their lives and not using their talents in the way that they were pursuing before they became involved.
Kibuloy and the kingdom appeared to be very open about these accusations and said they have nothing to hide. These apparent inconsistencies with his Messiah claims also seem to have no effect on the congregation.
If you have any doubts and you want to know the true way, our beloved pastor said that all you have to do is go directly. Don't ask any man. Go to the Almighty Father. Say, Father, who is this man? Who is Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy? Where should I go to be truly saved and become a son and daughter? And the Father will answer you, and I believe that He'll show you the way to His kingdom, which is already here on this earth.
We return to the Katitipan compound in the city for Kibeloi's Monday night TV show, Give Us This Day. Through his television ministry, Kibeloi says he's delivering his message of repentance to millions of people each week.
It's the day of the Lord, the judgment of evil. It's also the day of His reign on the earth, where, as I said, man's will is no longer to be reckoned with. It is the Father's will that is to be reckoned with.
At the moment, the kingdom's growth throughout the Philippines and the rest of the world appears to be gaining momentum. But does his divine mission as the second coming also contain more earthly desires?
If our own Filipino nation would wake up one day and would come to the appointed Son and say, be our president, politically, and make the Philippines just like this, I would be wholeheartedly there to do it for them, and in no time at all, the Father's blessings will be upon this nation, and this nation is going to be a showcase also for other nations.
Prove to me that you are a son of God!
But that is not a sentiment shared by Pastor Apollo Quiboloy, the most successful of the world's self-labeled saviors.
The official coming of the Son of God was in April 13, 2005.
He was an obscure evangelist from the rural Philippines until 2005, when he announced that God had appointed him Christ on earth, his reward for a pure life.
Sinful thoughts, anger, lust, any of those things, you don't experience those on a daily basis?
As a human being?
Yes.
I have already overcome all of those.
There is no apocalypse in Kibeloi's message, no rapture or final judgment. Instead, he preaches that he is the model of Christianity, and as more people follow his example, God will gradually turn the earth back into the Garden of Eden.
Do you perform miracles?
For me, the greatest miracle is the changing of that spirit within.
But healing the sick, the manifestations of Jesus' powers, you're able to do that?
We have healing.
You are
healing and miracles happening.
After taking his place as the appointed son, Kibeloi's ministry has exploded. He claims to reach 6 million followers with his satellite TV network, numerous publications, private jet, and personal helicopter. All the better to avoid the bumpy road and impoverished villages that lead to the walled compound he calls the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Here is his 5-bedroom home, surrounded by manicured gardens of imported grass.
So this is your Garden of Eden?
This is what we call the Garden of Eden restored.
It's easy to see why this claim resonates in a country where 30 million endure crushing poverty with open hearts. This family lives just down the hill, next to the dump where Pastor Kibeloi's garbage is burned.
If you could be anything in the world, what would you want to be? Go to heaven.
To them, heaven really could exist inside Kibeloi's gates, and it's why hundreds line up to carry his parasol. All the workers who toil in the grinding heat of the kingdom are volunteers, here to glorify the Father.
Do you get paid for this?
Juju tells me he gets $40 a week to feed his family. Minimum wage. And like the rest of the kingdom, he's expected to give 10% back to Kibeloi.
This may be the most beautiful spot in the Philippines, and it's paid for by people who live on $2 a day. So how do you justify your lifestyle? I mean, your watch could probably feed 100 families for a month.
If it's not God's will for me to have these things I have, you can take it away. It is God's will that we follow. If it is God's will for us to live like this, you can have a broken heart looking at me, but what can you do?
But they get their understanding of the will of God from you.
Yeah.
And this nice young man wouldn't be holding this umbrella if he didn't believe the things you say.
For us here, we see everything as a ministry. My talent is to preach. My talent is to be a leader. Not everyone can become a preacher or have been given a talent like me to go and lead the 6 million people.
Right. But Jesus, when he walked the earth, according to the Bible, lived among lepers and prostitutes.
I live among them.
You have a private jet.
I live among them. Before I had the private jet.
You're in a walled compound with mansions.
Before this, I lived among these people. Like, for example, that jet that you're talking about. Do you know that in 1983, I had a revelation of that jet? That the Lord is going to give me that.
Yeah?
It is Him who gave me that. If it is not His will, how can I afford that?
Well...
Kibeloy has been accused of kidnapping and brainwashing by the parents of at least one of his followers, but he was never charged. He insists that anyone is free to leave his flock and seal their fate for eternity.
Will they go to hell?
It's up to them. They know that. So that's your will, you know. If you want to go to hell, no one will stop you. If you want to go to heaven and follow this way, no one will stop you too.
Come work with you.
Yeah.
There are three possibilities here. You are either the Son of God, or you're delusional, or you're a very successful con man.
I respect your point of view. But I resent what you said that your followers will say, I'm a con man with a speaking ability that I've tried to con people. That is not who I am. I'm not trying to con people. I am speaking the truth.
Skepticism is a cross all modern messiahs must bear. In Siberia, Vissarion has also been accused of mind control, but there's not enough evidence to try him. And David Shaler? Well, there are fewer legal headaches for prophets without followers, but still plenty of moments to bring a so-called Son of God back to earth.
Do you think you're Jesus?
Sorry?
Are you Jesus?
I am Jesus, yes.
No, you're not.
I'm Bill Weir for Nightline in Davao, Philippines.
Can we have some quiet?
No shortage of skeptics, no shortage of believers. The Second Coming premieres next Wednesday on the National Geographic Channel.